Hi, good morning. How are you today? Welcome to day 7 of my 90-day spiritual virtue fast. And yes, that is in the background playing Sexy Red with Drake. Okay. Yeah. So, today's spiritual virtue is empathy. And the reading comes from Hebrews 4, Hebrews chapter 4, 14 through 16, and chapter 13 and 3. Okay. And so let's start with reading empathy. What is empathy? All right. Start our day off. Empathy is the ability to put ourselves in another's place and to understand their experience. We are deeply present to their thoughts and feelings with such compassionate accuracy that they can hear their own thoughts more clearly. Empathy connects us with our common humanity. It protects us from prejudice, blame, and judgment, those things that divide us from each other. With empathy, we reflect on how our actions affect others. It moves us to seek justice for every person, even those with whom we disagree. Empathy inspires us to be giving and selfless. Empathy connects our hearts. To listen another soul into a condition of disclosure and discovery may be almost the greatest service any human being ever performs for another. By Douglas V. Stair. The practice of empathy. I seek to understand others' experience. I listen with compassion. I refrain from judging and blaming. I think about how my choices impact others. I care about people's rights. I feel my connection to all people. I am thankful for the gift of empathy. It sensitizes my heart. Okay. Nice. All right, and so let's just go right into the reading. And so it was Hebrews chapter 4 from my Rasta Bible. And remember, as I said before, the only main difference between my Rasta Bible and yours is that a few words are changed because it's translated differently, and also it includes more books. Okay, and so, but everything else is the same. The understanding, everything is the same. It's just like any other translation Bible that you may have, except this one has more books and more stuff in it, catered to people such as myself and anybody else who wants to learn from this perspective. Okay, so here we go. Hebrews 4, 14 through 16. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, remember that's Jesus, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Okay. And then Hebrews 3. And I'm just going to read 1 through 3 because, Hebrews 13, 1 through 3. Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember them that are in bonds, as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity, as being yourselves also in the body. Okay. All right. So with reading this, there's some things that came to mind, and so I'm thinking about how the reason of this letter, the purpose of this letter was, remember, the purpose of this letter was to let people know to continue to hold on to the new faith, right? So there's this new faith that then came in. Jesus then came, and now the law was no more, and so people were starting to go back, to the law. And so this person is writing, telling them, don't give up, hold fast, remember who Jesus is, And so they and let's see. So when you think about empathy, and the card told us what empathy is. Empathy is showing that you care about someone. It's putting your shoes, being able to put my feet in someone else's shoes. That means that their life circumstances, I'm able to have understanding and compassion, and I'm able to understand that that can be me, and I'm able to say to myself, well, what if that was me? How would I feel in that situation? And not even necessarily from a judgmental point, because we have to watch it, because sometimes, because you've gotten through something, it's very quick to say, well, I've gotten there because I did it, why can't you? And that's looking at things from a different perspective. So that's why I want to say, like, haven't people always been this way? Haven't we always been selfish and been about self, right? Even myself, I think about this, and my reason for doing this spiritual virtue fast, is I find that I have many selfish ways, and it's not saying that I have these selfish ways because that's how I choose to be. I mean, depending on that, we can debate that choice of word, but nonetheless, isn't that how we're wired to be? We're wired to save self. We're wired to survive, and so and with minimum resources, there's going to come competition. So if there's minimum resources, there's going to be some type of competition. And if there's some type of competition, if I'm better than you, then I'm more likely to win. I'm more likely to succeed. If we're playing, what's that childhood game, not Ring Around the Rosie, but the magical seats, and if there's not enough seats, we have to fight for that one seat. And that's pretty much what this life is like. We are forced to have to compete, and for whatever reasons. But mostly it comes down to for things and money and power and prestige and stuff and things of the world. Okay, so let me get back on track here. Okay, so so basically what I'm getting out of this is that, for me, is that my heart was meant to connect with love, and then we talk about what the heart, well, what is the heart? The heart is an organ, right? Really, the heart is like an organ, but metaphorically, the heart is where our spirit lies, it's where we love. The heart connects with love, and so even though the heart is an organ in our body, from the other perspective, like when your heart is broken, when you're sad, you actually can feel the physical pains, like your heart feels like it's broken. When you're stressed, or when you're anxious, overly anxious, when your heart is going to be beating fast. And that's because you got cortisol and you got adrenaline running through your body. So your heart now is racing fast. Your heart is beating fast. And so if you're a person who has lived a life of stress, and you have all of this energy going throughout your body, the cortisol and adrenaline going throughout your body, your heart is beating fast. And that's what causes us to have strokes, high blood pressure, in addition to the foods we eat. But nonetheless, So trauma, loss, anything that causes stress, anything that causes that heart to beat fast is going to affect the heart, as an organ. And it also, if we're doing the same in regards to the spirit of the heart, then that's also going to cause problems with connection, right? Because the heart connects with love. Okay. And then I'm thinking about empathy. And thinking about love, well, empathy leads to love, empathy leads to love. So if you think about a continuum, if you think about a line, and if you have love on this side and you have lack on this side, right? You're going to have empathy on this side, right? Because we already explained what empathy is. And actually, let me go back to it here. Right, so Hebrews 4 and 14 through 16 talked about what empathy is. It said that Hebrews 13 and 3, it said, remember them that are in bonds, as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity, as being yourselves also in the body. So that's an example of what that's the description of what empathy is that we are to be more than mindful. Imagine that we are in the being of that person, their circumstances, ours, and to have genuine care and love for them. If we look at a person from a point of sympathy, I have another Bible, my Ethiopian Bible. In that passage, it read it as they used the word sympathy. To me, when sympathy is kind. Sympathy at the end, at some point, there's some kind of judgment at the end. It's like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. There's no action. Empathy is, you feel that connection, you feel that sorrow, but then you don't act on it. You don't act on it at some point. If you look at, like I said, as a continuum, you don't act on it. So sympathy is, you feel that sorrow for that person, but you don't act. So sympathy is going to lead to lack, because if you're not acting, if I'm not acting, if I'm sympathizing with somebody, I'm feeling sorry for them, but then comes the lack, where I'm judging them, or I don't do anything. I might overly criticize. I'm not looking to, or I may be overly harsh. Maybe my intentions might be to want to help and want to correct, but I'm doing it from saying, well, do it my way, because my way is better, and people will perceive that as if you're saying, well, as if I'm in lack, and so, but if you do it from love, it's like, oh, I see how you're doing that, do you mind if I show you another way, and maybe this could help you? Now you're showing that person, oh, I'm showing you in love. And I struggle with this too sometimes, and I do try to be mindful, and so that's why we're doing the spiritual principles. Okay. And so yeah, and also Jesus is it's telling us in 15, when that's where it's saying that Isis is saying that he that's the Bible verse where I said that they had it they used the word sympathy. That was in verse Hebrews chapter 4 and 15. For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. So I like how it describes it here, because it's not using the word sympathy. And so basically it's saying that, well, Jesus had empathized for us, right? And so now he displayed empathy. Jesus showed empathy. Now, when he believed Now I know a lot of people, there's people who believe different things about Jesus, and that's fine. I'm not here to try to convince or demand or do anything. I'm just doing a spiritual virtue based off of my belief in the books that I read, that I feel that helps me to feel connected to God, and I hope that it helps you to connect to your God as well and what you believe about God. And so, but we can't deny the fact Jesus believed that his death was fulfillment of prophecy. And all who have experienced him to this day agree. All who have experienced the love of God, all who have experienced the presence of God, agrees in regards to Jesus, or those who believe in Jesus, and of some, whether if he was a prophet or if he was God or the Son of God, well, that he had the belief that his death was fulfillment of prophecy. And all who had, and he didn't even, and I don't even have the Bible with me, so I'm not even going to go further into explaining, the things that he went through leading up to the crucifixion, because this is not what that's about. But, well, it is what this is about. But nonetheless, he did go through some suffering, physically. If you look in the different books of Mark and Matthew and stuff, and you see that he had went through some suffering physically and mentally. He didn't, he had a struggle, but then he continued and he went through because he had empathy, right? So, yeah, and then also with this writer at the end, she's saying that she's in her closing, she's giving a salutation in this letter. She's telling us that she's telling us to remember to have empathy for each other. I'm kind of going back and forth. I guess it's because I have my notes. So, but nonetheless, I hope that I was able to inspire you today. And we'll see what happens. And I'm just going to keep moving forward today with empathy. Yeah. So today I walk with the clarity that my heart and spirit's purpose is to extend empathy to others, to myself, and to anyone I judge or criticize, by remembering that love leads to connection and lack leads to division. My heart and spirit was created to be sensitive to the hearts and spirits of others for the purpose of connection. Love flows through empathy in the same manner that God extends his love to me. He is certainly a help during times of need. And we could go into more talk about that. Right? Have a wonderful day. Thank you.